Okay, so let's continue today's course. So before the break, we talked about the uses of C, and then we talked about the birth story of C, why C is invented, and how important is C to the modern programming language. So after the break, I want to continue to talk about why learning C. So as you can see from the ranking, Python is actually the most popular programming language right now. And so we received these feedbacks a lot in the past years that oh, Python, why we don't teach Pythons in this class. So there are two answers of it. The true answer is actually this is a requirement for the department, so I have no choice but teaching you guys about C. But the other reasons, it's also an important reason, is that I think learning C have a lot of good benefits. So although Python is very useful and easy to learn, as you can see, you can compare it. If you want to reverse a string in C or C++, you need to write all these things down here. But you only need to write 2 lines in Python to reverse a string. So you can see Python can let you achieve the same thing in an easier way. So let me close the door. Okay. And I will say that is true. Python is truly easier to learn compared to C, but learning C can let you master programming. Learning C can let you really understand all the important and detailed stuff about programming language, I would say. So consider a situation like where a person wants to learn how to drive a car. So we can think about this. So I try to come up a metaphor to let you guys understand why learning C is good. So this metaphor is that if you want to learn how to drive a car, just like you want to learn how to code, and when we want to learn how to drive, we have many options, right? We can decide what kind of car we want to learn when we take the driving license. So you can decide to learn the automotive car, like 自排车. And because it is an automotive car, this car can do a lot of work for you, and you can learn how to drive easier and faster. And of course, it can make driving simpler for the driver. But you can also decide to learn how to drive a manual car, that is 手排车. So the manual car is that you need to change the transmission by yourself, and this is more complicated because it requires the driver to understand how a car works to drive this manual car. So if a person decides to learn driving on a manual car, he or she need to know all the things, right? And after we know how to learn to drive a manual car, we can easily learn how to drive the automatic car as well, right? So just like what we are doing right now, if we learn how to use C, then this experience of learning C can help us to learn other programming language easier and deeper, because C don't help us to do the things that other programming language help us to do. We need to do those things by ourselves. But because we know how to do these things by ourselves, when we learn the other programming language, we will learn them faster, and we will know some hidden concept, because some lower level concept you will learn when learning C are often hidden by the other modern programming language. for example, if you learn Python, it's really hard for you to directly access the memory allocation of your device, but C allows you to directly allocate the memory address. You can manipulate the computer memory. But I will say because C give the programmer this permission to manipulate the memory of device, so it can be also a very dangerous features. So if you use C, you need to know what you are doing. Okay, so after the break, the next part of the course, we will use those difficult vocabulary here. So the philosophy means 哲学, and we will also encounter the word permissive. So permissive is that I permit someone to do everything they want to do. So this is the meaning of permissive. You will also see the error prone, this word in the later slides. And error prone means that it's easy to make mistake. And you'll also encounter the words efficient, flexibility, and concise. So yeah, so if you see the word in the following slide and you forgot the meaning of this word, please feel free to come back to this slide to know the meaning of these words. So I want to introduce 3 philosophy of C. So after we know why C was designed for, now I will introduce the philosophy of C. So C is actually the lower level, or you can say the mid-level language. And the other thing is that C is actually a small language. And the third thing is that C is a permissive language. So first, let's check out the first philosophy. So because C was designed for this Unix OS, so C provides the programmer access to the machine level concept that the other language try to hide, just like the access to the computer memory I just mentioned. So C allowed us to do that. So that is also the reason why C can be very fast, because C can directly access to those lower levels concept of your computer, lower level layers. And C can also directly access to some computer building instructions. And here is the roadmap of how the C communicate to our computer systems. So please ignore the Java here. So we can see that this is an example of the C code. You will learn all these things in this course and the course in the next semester. And after we write down C, the compiler of C, and the lower layer after C is the assembly language here. So you can see the assembly language look like this. And then after the lower layer for the compared to the assembly language is machine code. So machine code is the code we say 0 and 1. So that is the language our machine understand. But this is the language people cannot understand. So you can see that how the language of C are translated into assembly language and then the machine code, and then that this hardware device knows the command you write down using C. And the second philosophy is that C is a small language. So this is the most epic, the most classic textbook of C. And you can see that the textbook is really thin. It's thinner than $1 Taiwanese dollar. So actually C only provides a small set of features compared to many other language. So you can learn all the basic syntax of C really quick. And all the important functions of C rely heavily on the standard, on the library of the standard function. So that is why if you read a code of C, you'll often see that at the top of the code, we often include two things that's called stdio and stdlib, something like that. So these two things represent different standard function libraries. So don't worry, we'll talk about that in the later lessons. And the final philosophy of C is that C is a permissive language. So actually, C assumes that the programmer who uses C know what they are doing. So C don't provide the detailed error checking that you can usually find in the other programming language. So basically what this means is that C just allows you to do everything you want. Because if you have experience using other programming language, they have a lot of rules, like you cannot do that and you cannot do that. But for C have less rule of that, so C will just let you code whatever you want. But that is also not a good thing, because if you don't know what you are doing, then your program will probably crash very easily. So that means that when you write C, you need to debug all the time. That's my experience. So following this philosophy of C, so I want to introduce the strength and the weakness of C. So because we know that C is a low-level or mid-level language, so that is why one of the strengths of C is efficiency. So because C was useful for the application where the assembly language have been used, so it is important that the C can run as fast as the assembly language. And for the most of the time, the C programs are run on the device that only have limited amounts of memory, and that kind of embedded device don't have a lot of energy. So C also need to be efficient in the energy. So this is a paper published in 2021, and they just ranking a lot of programming language by their energy efficiency, and you can see that C almost rank top one in different things like the energy-wise, time-wise, but yeah. And you can see the language at the top two, Rust is called Rust here. So if you have heard about Rust, Rust is also a C-inspired programming language. Okay, and the second strength of C is that C provides a lot of flexibility. So this is from the philosophy that C is a permissive programming language. So C have a very few restrictions on how the use of the C features. For example, you can write down this in C. You can add 1 to A, although I'm not sure why someone wants to write something like this. But in C allows you to do that. But in the other modern programming language, if you write something like this, you will get a compilation error. But for C, you will not get the compilation error if you write the line like this. So I will say the flexibility has a pros and cons. For the good side, this flexibility can make programming easier because we can write whatever we want at the most of the time. However, the bad side is that this flexibility may allow some bugs and errors, and this thing need to lead to the weakness of C. So the first weakness of C is that C can be error prone. And this is due to the high flexibility we mentioned in this slide here. So the programmer who use C often makes error easily. And one of the reasons is that the C compilers don't really help us to detect some errors. So when you use C, you will have a lot of things we call runtime error. That means that you will find this error, you only find this error when you run the code. So during the compilation, you probably will not see this error in your code. And for example, in C, we need to add a semicolon at the end. However, if you add an extra semicolons in your C code, it can cause infinite loop. That is the loop that will never stop. But this kind of error will not be detected sometimes by the compilers, and you will only find out when you run your programs. But that kind of error will directly cause your program to crash. So yeah, so I will say this is something that will happen a lot when you're learning C. And the next weakness is that C can be hard to read because C don't have the feature like classes and package you will have in the C++ or other OOP language. So C don't have really tool to help us to divide a larger programs. So that is why when you write something in C, and if you don't have a good programming habit, there are sometimes you will just forget what you write in the last week. So I will say this is very important to keep the maintenance in your mind. So whenever you're writing your code, you need to think about, okay, can I still understand what I'm writing right now, next week, or even next month, or even next year? So this is something you need to keep in mind, and we will talk about what kind of important habits you should keep in order to maintain your code in the other lessons. Okay, so because C is very hard to read, so actually there's even a context for that. Okay, so if you go to this website, IOCCC, this website is an international, this word so hard, obfuscated C code context. And this is the best one-liner of 2020. So these guys just write one line in C. And okay, so if anyone can explain this line right now clearly, you can just pass this class. Okay, I will give you 100 for this class. Anyone want to try to explain this clearly? Does anyone want to try that? I don't want to try that. I will be honest with you. I don't know what the what the hell is this. Okay, yeah. So just something I want to share with you guys. So C can be really hard to read. Okay, so actually we're gonna reach the end of this class. So but before I end this class, there's something I want to remind you. So before next week, I want to recommend you try to install VS Code and C on your computer. And you can find a tutorial of how to install VS Code and C on Windows or Mac on equals 2. We provide some link there. And actually, there are plenty of tutorials online. You can even ask the generative AI you use. So please make sure you set the environment on your computer and be ready to write some C on your computer. So that is all for today, and thank you for coming.